and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another full day of eating with your girl Chen Yang here. So in today's video, we're going to be going over some key tips towards intuitive eating and mindful eating while still being a fitness girl who wants to reach her goals, because for me, I really preach balance and a lifestyle approach. With all our clients, I understand that fitness is not the only thing they care about in life. Of course, it's important that we are smashing our goals and progressing, but there is always room for meals out, with meals with family, and just, again, seeing this as a sustainable lifestyle and enjoying yourself and having that balance. So I'm gonna go over some tips in terms of how you can remove yourself from that all or nothing mindset with food, because, I know for a lot of you guys, when you go out to eat, it's not the meal that you eat out that really sabotages your progress, but it's what happens afterwards, your response to it. You freak out, you go, well, I wasn't perfect today, I've messed up, and then you end up going home and just overindulging, eating through your pantry, or you say F it and you end up ordering more dessert than you needed, you end up overindulging when you're out. It is that mindset that really, affects your progress. It's not that one meal out. It's so important you know how to have those meals out while still making progress. So that's what we're going to go over today. But anyways, before we get started, make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you're new here. Join me on Instagram, that's czia.fit. Would absolutely love to see you guys there. And let's get started with the best meal of the day, in my humble opinion, which is breakfast. Guys, so few tips that I really want you guys to take away from this in terms of obviously eating out and just being mindful. I'm gonna actually go through what I've shared with our clients in our private Facebook groups. So we do offer a lot of resources and guides, and I think I laid it out quite well here. So I'm just gonna use my notes here, hence why I'm gonna be looking down at my laptop. But number one really is the abundance mindset. Now, remind yourself that number one, food will always be there, right? So if you can't try everything now, you're always going to have another opportunity, right? So perhaps you're having that one meal out that you promised yourself because you're trying to, reach your goals, and you're having that meal out, say, on your Saturday, instead of going into this is my cheat meal mindset, just being like, you know what, the food's always going to be there. When you look at a menu, there's always going to be more than you really can, have in one sitting, right? And you're always going to be able to have another time to try it, so you don't have to have everything now. Second one is the abundance of time as well. So again, just as there is an abundance of food, there is plenty of time. Once you break free from the restrictive mindset, you'll realize you have a whole lifetime to enjoy food, right? So for example, if right now you're in a dieting phase and it does require you to be a bit more on point with your nutrition, just recognizing that this isn't going to be forever. You're not going to be dieting forever. If you have the right plan in place, you'll have, maybe X amount of weeks where you are dieting, and then afterwards, you're not going to be feeling like you have to be so on point with nutrition, because you would have reached that goal, and then it would have been about, okay, let's just maintain it and learn how to maintain whilst being able to have more meals out, right? So just knowing that you do have an abundance of time to be enjoying foods. So again, if you're out and about and there's more on the menu that you want to have, you don't have to have it all right there. You're going to have another time and another opportunity to have that dessert. Next thing is planning ahead, okay? So regardless of whatever it is in life, planning leads to success, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So number one is, if you're eating out, perhaps looking at the menu beforehand. It's easy to get overwhelmed by choices once you get to the restaurant, and you may end up ordering a lot more than you realistically need. So if you can, maybe just having a look at the menu and being like, okay, what do I actually want? Sensibly, what do I really want, and what, how much do I really need. Number 2 is setting yourself a boundary. So whether this be for drinks or meals, set yourself like a measurable boundary to stay accountable to. So this could be, say, okay, I'm only going to have 2 drinks maximum. This weekend, if I'm out, that is going to be my, drinking kind of night, and I'm going to have 2 drinks maximum. It could be, okay, for this meal, I'm going to have 1 main and 1 dessert, depending on what your current goals are, and I'm just going to stick to that instead of getting there and be like, I'm going to have 2 sides as well, and then, I'm going to do another sharing platter. Like, go in knowing what your boundaries are going to be. And again, this is going to be dependent on your current goals. Like, if you're currently in a building phase, you're going to have a bit more like luxury, a bit more room to add a bit more food in. If you're currently in a cutting phase, like, if you do want to see yourself progress in that week, you may likely have to be like, okay, you know what, I'm going to skip out on a dessert because I don't really need it right now and it's not really in line with my current goals. Next is obviously bank sensible calories. Now, this is one where I don't recommend to everyone, and I don't really recommend to our clients unless I have worked with them for a very long time and I know that they are in a very good position with food where they have no emotional ties to it. So what banking calories means is, like, naturally, if you are going to be eating out, most likely that meal is going to be heavier in fats and carbs and all of that, right? It's going to be a lot more indulgent. Even if you are being mindful, likely there is going to be more calorie dense than something you make at home, just because the restaurants are going to add sauces, oils, all these different things, and that's absolutely okay. So instead, what you'd want to do is, like, for breakfast or lunch, just going a bit lighter, so focusing on just proteins, vegetables, fruits, but just going lighter on the carbs and the fats so that you save some extra calories from the day for the last meal. Now, again, I don't recommend this for everyone because for a lot of people, this can lead to almost like a binge and restrict cycle where mentally you're like, okay, I'm just gonna not eat during the day, so then when I go out, I can have more food. And then you almost give yourself this excuse to just binge and eat more in the evenings, which number 1 isn't actually going to make you feel great afterwards because you're going to be overly full, and then number 2, it just gives you this binge and restrict mindset, and it's very easy to end up in that cycle where then every time you have a meal out or plans, you just restrict during the day just so then you can overindulge at night. And again, not great for your mental well-being, not great for your physical health, and also not really conducive towards any sort of fitness goals that you do have. So that's why I say this one is one of those things where if you're in a really good place with food, you have no emotional ties, like you don't have the all or nothing mindset, and you can just see it as, well, it's kind of like budgeting. Like if I'm going to spend more one day and I'm trying to, reach a certain budget goal, then it just means like naturally I have to spend a little bit less on my other outgoings. Same thing with calories. If I'm going to be spending a bit more in the evenings, going to go a bit lighter during the day. But again, I wouldn't suggest that for everyone. Now, number 3 is actually asking yourself, like, how do you want to feel from the meal out? Okay, so another one, physical comfort, right? So eating beyond what you really need will do nothing but cause you to feel bloated, feel sickly full, and cause digestion problems the next day. So just remind yourself, like, how do I want to feel after this meal? Eat to make you feel physically good, right? Number 2 is emotional ease. So how do you emotionally feel when you know you've lost control to food, right? Like, remind yourself that, if you delay that instant urge to eat more, to say yes to more, to order that dessert, and logically make the choice of sticking to your boundaries, you're going to feel a lot more accomplished and empowered. And finally, performance. This is why I always say, like, it's so important to have performance-based goals as well, whilst you're reaching a physique-based goal, because number 1, like, it's like, how do you want to feel in your workouts from the meal that you've just had? If you're working out tomorrow and you overindulge this evening, how are you going to feel in your workout? You're going to be bloated, you're going to feel heavy, right? You're not going to feel great, you're not going to perform great. So again, it's almost being like, well, I have these physique-based goals, but also, like, how do I want to feel in my performance and at the gym? And then how can I then make sure that my actions are aligned with how I want to feel the next morning? Number 4 is calories are just calories, okay? So just recognizing that whether the food is untracked, the meal is untracked or tracked, the calories in your meals don't change, right? If you wouldn't intentionally eat, say, over 1,000 calories over your daily set macros and track it in, what's the difference when it becomes untracked? It would still be over 1,000 calories, right? So just be sensible and make sensible decisions. So for example, if you're out and you come back home and you're like, oh, I've got the effort mindset, like, I haven't been perfect, I don't know exactly what my macros are because I ate out, instead of going into your pantry and be like, well, F it, I'm just gonna have all the chocolate in my pantry and have all the ice cream, all the crisps, all the peanut butter, everything I see. Just give yourself that 1 minute to be like, actually, would this be a sensible choice if I was to be tracking it? Like, would I come and just track everything now that I'm going to eat and binge over? Probably not, right? Because you know that it's not gonna be great for your health. It's just logically not sensible, but it's very easy to not give yourself that just that 1 minute to kind of sense check things and then just to eat through everything, and then 5 minutes later you're like, crap, oh my gosh. Okay, so just give yourself that time and just really remind yourself calories are still calories, whether they're tracked or not, it doesn't matter. Let's make sensible decisions. Let's make logical choices around food and how much, food we're going to be having. And knowing that if we're full, let's just stop, regardless of whether we've been tracking or not, regardless of whether we know we've hit our proteins or our calories or not. If you're full, just don't eat anymore. Like, it's your meal out, you've had a lovely meal, come home, it's cool. You can track tomorrow, you can get back on track tomorrow. One meal is not going to do anything, whether that meal was over your calories or under your calories, it doesn't matter, it's one meal. Finally is conscious decision making. So number one is we want to be making sure that we are satisfying our cravings. So if you have been eyeing up a certain dish, craving a particular food, order it, satisfy that craving and just move on. Because often what happens, and I've been there myself, is like you go out to eat and you're like, all I've been wanting is like a pizza. And you go and you're like, oh, but I shouldn't have it because pizza's bad. All these things you tell yourself, right? And you don't get it. And maybe you get a salad. And you leave and you feel so unsatisfied that you go home and you're like, F it. And then you have everything you see, and maybe you order the pizza instead at home because you're not satisfied, right? So you might as well have just ordered it when you were out. Number two is awareness of choices and the outcomes. So make a choice between opting for a clean, balanced meal and having your meal out much more in line with your progress, or choose a more calorie dense meal that you're craving, and also just be okay in knowing that, you probably may not be pushing yourself closer to your goals that week. So what I mean by that is, asking yourself, okay, well, I either could choose something that's low in calories and my current goal is to lose some body fat and perhaps continue seeing the scale drop this week in my check-in with my coach or with myself, or I could have the pizza and just be okay knowing that, this week if my weight just maintains, I'm gonna be fine with it. I'm happy with my current progress and the speed of my progress, so I'm gonna allow myself to have it. So just making a choice that you're aware of and just kind of knowing that you'd be happy with the outcome that follows. And the final thing is the meal after. So hop right back on track the next meal, and know that one meal untracked will not spiral you out from making progress. However, making poor decisions one after the other is what causes us to lose progress. So that all or nothing approach, let's remove ourselves from it, knowing that one meal is not going to do any harm. It's 80-20, right? Like it's about what you do 80% of the time that really does matter. One salad does not get someone in shape. One salad, is not going to get you in shape, just as one pizza is not going to get you out of shape. It's about, what your choices are the majority of the times. If you have a pizza every day, then you're probably going to be out of shape. If you were to have a salad every day, you're most likely going to lose some weight. So it's about what you do 80% of the time, not what you do in that 20% of the time of you just living your life, which is really important. So I hope that was helpful. As always, if you have any questions, anything in particular you want to go through, pop it in the comments and I'm more than happy to go through that. But these are generally the tips that I, have kind of told myself to get to a point where now, I will track most days when I can, and if I can't, it's okay, because I value family time, I value those special moments, but I also value my fitness goals, right? So it's about knowing when to really be strict with yourself and then when to actually just allow yourself to be mindful and intuitive, knowing that again, one family meal or one meal out with your friends on a birthday or a special occasion or brunch is not going to ruin your progress. It's about what you do around that meal, okay? You have 7 times 21 meals in a week, quick maths. One meal out of that still leaves you 20 meals to be on track, okay? So it's those 20 meals that are probably going to dictate whether you make progress or not that one meal. Unless that one meal is, the kind of all or nothing mindset approach where that one meal literally sabotages all your other meals. That's what we don't want, and that's why we have these tips here.